Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for registering and joining today's webinar, which is all about, well, no, first of all, I should say it's now becoming a bit of a regular update from Venue Performance. We've done these a few times now. Today's is all about, can you be sure you're maximising your revenue from M&E, meetings and events? And we'll aim to deliver on that. It's about benchmarking, and it's a general update on the state of the market at the moment. It's 10 a.m. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of October, and we're due to be live with you today for around 30 minutes, including time for questions. And if you do have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A option, which is probably at the bottom of your screen. I'm Jane Pendlebury, CEO of HOSPA, the Hospitality Professionals Association, and I'm delighted to be joined, as ever, by our expert, Peter Heath from Venue Performance. Before we get started, Peter, I just want to let everyone know that there will be a recording of this, and we are recording it now, and the key points and the summary of the recording will be on the HOSPA website as soon as we can, certainly within the next few days. Peter, can I hand over to you to say hello?
Hello. So no swearing then, if it's
No
being
swearing.
recorded. Yeah, you're live
But
on
yes,
you're live on air. Please do not swear.
I thought it'd be great if you could just give us a bit of a summary of where we are in the UK with meetings and events this quarter, so far this year, perhaps. And then I'd love to leave time just for a bit of a summary about the event we were both at last week, but we'll come back to that. We'll leave people in suspense. But if I hand over to you for just a bit of a state of the market, that would be
Okay,
lovely.
yes. Yeah, thank you. And hello everybody. Nice to see you all again. State of the market's all right, actually. It's in for meetings and events, obviously. It's doing pretty well in general. There is a bit of regionality, as you'd all expect. But generally things are up. And depending on who you are, what your property is, what type of blend of business you're doing, will depend how much you're up. But the general trend for meetings and events is positive and up. So I've got more data you can shake a stick at, but I won't bore everybody with that. But if we want to have a look at it later or at the end or at any particular point, we can have a look at some charts and graphs and that sort of thing. But that's quite boring for some people.
It might be what some people have signed up
It
to
might
do,
be,
to look
in which
at.
case we can give them what they want if they want that. Yes.
Well, as ever, please do pop your comments if you would like to join in. But I would like to think that the increase in meetings and events has been because the whole part of that little part, that sector of the industry has been getting a lot more professional, a lot more commercial in the most recent years. And actually, I'll dive straight into the event we were both at last week. Peter and I have both been lucky enough to be part of a wider group of meetings and events expert. Many of you will know Tom Finn from Edwards and Finn, and he, over the last year and a half, has brought together a working party of experts in this field with a view to understanding more about the opportunity from meetings and events and help spread the word about the value of this particular part of the industry, because I think it's been underestimated. And I don't want to insult anybody who's been being very commercial for a long time, but I think that has been increasing massively recently. I'm sure there were experts in it many years ago as well, but the demand for increased technology to support those involved in the day-to-day issues of pricing and balancing demand and the space available, the delicate balance of accepting and rejecting pieces of business has been up for discussion. What's been your biggest takeaway from that, Peter, from those discussions, or would you like to add anything to what I've said?
I think the biggest takeaway is that M&E is now probably a thing, a proper thing, proper grown up thing. Which again, as you just said, may sound a bit counter to what the people certainly in the room today are experiencing, because they obviously we know that M&E is a thing, but there is a bit of a an attitude, or the industry has been guilty of having an attitude that M&E fills beds, certainly from the hotel world. Not all hotels. Again, everything, everything is caveated with, not all hotels are the same and not all properties are the same. And actually, the name of my business, Venue Performance, we started off in venues as opposed to hotels. So venues, loads of unique and individual, brilliant venues have been doing events because they are events venues. And London, especially, and UK, especially as well, is very good at non-hotel meetings and events venues. And they have been doing M&E. That's their bread and butter. That's what they're doing. So they know and understand the value of M&E. The challenge for them is they were never measuring it. And then you flip it into the hotel world, and the hotel world measures everything, but they weren't measuring M&E. So now it seems to be coming together rather nicely that the industry, whatever that may be, it's not just a beds with a bit of M&E. It's an industry that understands the value of M&E, both from profit, from revenue, from everything really. Well, I guess profit and revenue is probably the two main bits. So how do they get better at that? That's what the sessions were all about, wasn't it? How do we improve? How do we prove the value of M&E, I guess? And I think there's general acceptance now, belief that it's now significant. It's still only a small percentage compared to beds. We've got to admit that and acknowledge that. In the hotel world, M&E is still, it's always going to be secondary to beds because beds is what a hotel does. So I was encouraged. I'm encouraged by the attitude of some of the brands, some of the operators, some of the leaders, some of the people who are really, really, really putting a lot of effort and time and revenue and resource and thinking into this. Yeah, and some really good stuff came out, as well as the tech.
Yes, I must say I've been really impressed, in fact, quite blown away by some of the commercial expertise in the room. There's some very clever people working in these roles. And there's been a shift, I think, from bedroom revenue across to looking at the bigger picture and how they can affect each other, and how there is opportunity in making some good money in M&E if you just get it right and don't just take that first bit of business, which is what we used to do with bedrooms if you wind the clock back 25, 30 years as well. One of the discussions that I found interesting, and you may have some data to back this up, is the larger rooms, the bigger conferences. Now, obviously, we have I'll do a shameless plug for our conference on the 14th of November. We are using a big space at the Royal Lancaster Hotel, which will take hundreds of people. And there are a fair few venues that will do that in London. But those bigger events tend to be fewer, would I be right? And the demand is more for smaller events. Is that am I just talking rubbish, Peter, or can you verify what I'm saying? And is that anything to do with post-pandemic attitudes towards meetings and events?
I wasn't ignoring you and checking my emails. I was actually just doing some filtering on my data because I think I might have something to show you. I'm going to go just while my data does its thing. Yes, there's a general trend. Having said that, everything was positive and everything was good, there is a general trend that the bigger conferences, for want of a better word, are lessening in demand. We don't quite know why that is yet, and there may well be a lag based on the state of the UK economy. So if you think about it, we track two things. We track bookings, i.e., how many sales are in a month or in per property per month, and we also track how many events are delivered in a property per month. So the bookings we call that intent. So what's the appetite for booking these big conferences, for booking these big events, and then obviously how many events taking place. And the appetite for booking these big events is dropping. So therefore, that could be an alarm bell that we need to think about. On the other hand, if you think about it logically, big events need big commitment, and they need commitment quite far out. And the economic landscape hasn't been very conducive to big investment decisions a long way out. Not only because companies don't know what they're doing, but they also don't know what their customers are doing. So actually, the whole financial situation that we've been in as a country, with interest rates, inflation, labor, cost, energy, there's been a lot of pressure on businesses financially, and now we had the general election. So just as we were coming out of the sort of, Rishi cocked it up with his timing. So we came out of the kind of doldrums of rubbish financial performance. Then we called a general election, so that slowed things down. And then Labour have said, we're going to have a budget and there's going to be some shit coming down the, oh, sorry, I saw that. There's going to be some stuff coming down the road. So everyone's going, oh, what's that going to be? What's that going to be? So they've slowed down. So everything's slowed down. So I think there's a bit of a tub of glue that's been poured over the big investment world. And there's a difference between a big conference and a big exhibition, for example. So big exhibitions, they're baked in, they're big, massive things that have to happen every year or 2 years. Conferences or big conferences, you can pull back those. And they're the classic things that get whipped from the marketing budget as well, don't they? So I think there's a lag in those. We've seen a dip, but I suspect with the strong economy of 25, which we all expect, budget issues aside, but people are going to feel there's more cash in their pockets in 2025. The economy is generally going to be better performing in 2025. Look at inflation, look at growth. Business is going to have a lot more confidence. So I suspect that those bigger conferences will come back. But yes, gosh, that was a long-winded way of saying we've seen a decrease in bigger events, and we have seen an increase in smaller meetings.
Great. That did answer the question, so thank you. There
Yeah.
was a survey done recently, actually, by Fox Hills, which is very close to us here in Surrey. Actually, both Peter and I are. Actually, are you in Surrey or are you across the border in Hampshire?
In Hampshire.
In Hampshire. So, but in Surrey, just close to us both, so there's a beautiful resort and golf course called Fox Hills, and they've recently undertaken some research that suggests that 98% of those involved in their survey said that they preferred to attend strategy days and brainstorming sessions off-site, and that they felt that they were a lot more effective if they weren't in the confines of their own office. So I think perhaps that is gathering a bit of momentum. And I think leadership away days are I was at our local hotel yesterday for a meeting, and they were saying that they're getting a lot more interest from leadership away days. Now that is, again, similar to Fox Hills, a resort that has beautiful views and lots of space for blue sky thinking, for want of a better expression. So go on.
Well, I think that if you read all the papers and all the hospitality financial press as well, and travel obviously is a huge indicator of where people are spending their money, and everybody's looking for those experiences, aren't they? So experiences are the driver. So do you have your away day, your strategy day, your sales kickoff, your quarterly get together? Do you have it in a meeting room that's really dull and uninspiring? And actually, that's the whole working from home thing as well. When you bring your teams together, you want to have those experiences rather than just have a functional, meeting, because you all see each other every day, and therefore you will meet down the road or meet down the corridor, or if you don't see everybody every day, you will come together somewhere nice. So I think that also makes sense and is logical and follows the pattern of we spend a bit more money on experiences rather than just functional things. So yeah.
Great. Do you want to share some data then about what's been going on recently, either this quarter or year to date so far, just a sort of an overview for everyone who's taken the time to spend time with us today?
Yes, okay, I can do. Again, I wasn't being rude. I was just sort of changing some of my filters on here. So
Well,
what I can do, okay, I've got loads of data that I can share people, but I'm not going to share all of it. But I will share that conference one that you talked about, or that I mentioned, conferences being less of a thing. So let me just share this. Okay, can everybody see this? Jane,
Yep,
can you see
we can see
it?
that. Yep.
Okay, so remember those two lines I was talking to you about? So this is the line. So we're going back here, 2023. So January 23 until the end of 24. And we're looking at conferences of all sizes. Okay. And we can change some of this as well. So this line here, this lighter orange line, you can see it generally starting to dip a little bit. Now, what you have to do here is don't get too stuck in the weeds. Don't try and figure out what 1 month's data is telling you. Sort of zone out, look at the bigger trend and the bigger picture, and you can see that the lighter line is dipping a little bit. And that's the intent that we talked about. And then if you look at the darker line, you can see that also that is starting to drop off a little bit, although there's a lag there because obviously the darker line is stuff that's already booked. It was booked ages ago, therefore it's still going to take place. So there's in fact, what you can see is the gap widening between the gap here. Look, it's quite similar. The gap here is quite wide, and that's because the dip of businesses that are confirming or conferences that are confirming versus the number of conferences that are actually taking place. But you can see here, look, I mean, conferences, we're in conference season now, right? Last quarter, September, October, November, bit of December, not really December actually, but you can see that it jumped straight back up again. And it probably will for October as well. And if we look at October last year, actually October dipped from September last year, whereas October will probably pick up, which is why I said to you that the market generally speaking is in pretty good shape. So that will go up in October. And I suspect that won't really grow. That won't go up much this year because everybody's waiting for the budget. Then everybody's waiting for the end of the year. And so the January, when budgets are released, confidence is back. That will probably kick off again in terms of the number of bookings. So that gives you an idea of the conference narrative that you spoke about earlier on. But that also plays into, I think, the should I stop sharing that now? That also plays into the issue that we're talking about of meetings and events. The market is still going up, still pretty strong. Beds are softening. Okay, so if you're a hotel, again, depending on the hotel and the location, etc. But beds, generally speaking, i.e. leisure, is softening a little bit, and business is where people are looking to make up the shortfall in leisure, and then obviously business with what you really want is you want the conference or the meeting and the bed and the F&B spend. So it's no real shock that the commercial people looking at the beds and going, oh, we're a bit light here. Where else can we get some money from? Oh, M&E. Okay, let's grab the M&E team and pull them in. So the M&E team are under pressure to drive the revenues. Then they're under pressure to prove what they need to support to drive those revenues in terms of teams, in terms of systems, in terms of measurement, reporting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that changes the culture. And then all of a sudden M&E is a bit of a thing rather than it just being the old bed filler. So that's what I think is the context around what's driving it all. And the venues out there, I can't see who's in the room, but the venues out there that would probably shouting, saying, we've been doing this for ages.
Yes.
Not the beds bit, but the venues, have been doing it for ages. Or something like a De Vere, that they are meetings and events first with the beds that come alongside of that. So yeah. So that's the sort of state of the conferencing market, which is an indicator that you've really got to be on your numbers when you figure out where you're going to get your revenues from? Is it smaller meetings? Is it bigger conferences? Christmas parties, for example, they've kind of gone, which is a shocker, because if you think of how much money the industry used to make in Christmas parties, huge amounts of money, and that's now largely gone because you don't want drunk people doing drunk things. That's not good. And the youngsters don't like that anymore anyway. They're not such a big deal on alcohol and what have you. So yeah. That's
It's interesting what you said about the leisure spend softening on beds. I was at a meeting with the Institute of Chartered Accountants just recently, and it was declared during that meeting that all the personal savings that individuals were those who were able to save money during the pandemic for whatever reason they were stuck at home, couldn't spend, and they were still able to earn. Those savings have now been spent.
gone.
So that could be where we're seeing a dip in the leisure business side because people have spent that. And there was a lot of getting together after COVID, wasn't there? Of families reuniting and delayed birthday, Christmas parties, whatever they were, family events, weddings, that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean everything. There's a huge amount of everything. I'm just going to change my conference stat to go back to 2022 to see if that sort of, to go back even further, because in fact, there you go. I'm going to share it here to prove the point. Love it when these things happen like this. So look at that. So we're now going to go. So what we were looking at before was 2023 to the end of 2024, and we were showing that slowdown. Whereas if you take this data back to 2022, that that post-pandemic insatiable need, desire, desperation almost to get back together in the room, to bring your customers together, to hold that conference that you haven't held for several years. Look at that. That's going like crazy. In fact, I should have shown this chart beforehand, because that gives even more context, because post-pandemic pent-up demand, which is that old sort of overused word, but it's a true thing, right? Pent-up demand was real. Pent-up demand in travel, pent-up demand in business, pent-up demand. You can see that there. Everybody was crazy to get back together again, and then all of a sudden it's now this bit here in the last sort of several months is going down again. Now again, we're looking at conferencing here, not meetings, not weddings, not anything like this. But again, you can see how the market is evolving, and we think we're over this pandemic thing, and we are, thankfully, from a point of view of obviously the impact of pandemic, but we're not over the. Sorry, no, I'm going to contradict myself. We're not over the impact of the pandemic. We're over the pandemic itself, but we're not over the impact of the pandemic. I think 2025 will see, dare I say it, a bit of normality. I think there'll be some rhythm in 2025 because, fingers crossed, the pandemic is gone, general election, economy is coming back again, confidence, people can start to forecast knowing what they're going to get. And I think that will happen in 2025 and 2026. And I think there will be quite steady, not sort of explosive growth, but steady growth in 25 and 26. So we've got a couple of years of being quite healthy. How that impacts travel and beds and leisure, I don't know that, because that's personal spend, isn't it? As opposed to business spend. So business spend is all about confidence in the economy and the future, and where are we going, and can I bet on a conference in 6 months' time. Personal spend is how much cash have I got in my pocket, and that that's going to change a lot of things by the economy. So, but people are going to have more cash in their pockets. The interest rates are coming down, so yeah, we're all going to be a bit better off in 2025, I think.
Let's hope so. Yes, we've talked a fair bit about the pandemic today, which is interesting. This time last year, I was almost banning speak of post-pandemic. I was so sick of hearing it. But I think now we have got to a stage where really post-pandemic. Things are settling down. And there is, and I hate this phrase too, there is a new normal now
Mm.
post-pandemic. And I think we do have to accept that that was a marker in very many ways that we did things. And things have changed in our personal lives, in our working lives. The working from home thing obviously is the biggest impact that a lot of people have seen. Interesting what you said about the economy as well. I think the knowledge is it's the security of knowing where we are, whether we feel richer or not, doesn't really matter. It's whether we know how we expect to be in 6 weeks, 6 months' time, and that sort of thing, and that will influence spend. We had a finance directors dinner last week, which was fascinating actually. And we got onto the subject of the budget, which is due, most people know, at the end of this month. And the point that came out of that was that how interesting it is that so many people are now focused on the budget. In previous years, years gone by, many people outside immediate finance people and tax advisors and that sort of thing barely knew when there was a budget coming up, and
Mm.
it affected them just from maybe the price going on to their pint of beer or whatever it might be. Whereas now people feel a lot more invested because there's so much speculation about what the budget might be delivering, what it might not be. And I know a big concern for a lot of employers are the new rights that are coming in for employees. And in hospitality businesses, because so many of these are smaller businesses, the cost of the employee rights and delivering all of the things that we're going to be promising, and increases in national insurance for the employer rather than the employee, are affecting hospitality businesses, or worrying hospitality businesses and any other business as well, which will, so once we know where we are, that will probably put some stability back into the market. But if we look at hospitality business, they're probably going to be squeezed again. And they have been squeezed a lot on the supply chain, on increasing costs left, right, and centre, not just utilities, but also food and other supplies coming into the hotel. But stability, at least we know where we will be, hopefully, post budget, as you said.
Yeah, I think, gosh, we're a people's business, aren't we? So, people are obviously at the heart of what we do, and therefore they're also at the heart of the finances. So if they're going to get whacked, or if we're going to get whacked for having a lot of people by national insurance contributions and what have you, then that's going to have an impact. Although, interestingly, if you look at the macroeconomic markets, yes, there's more revenues, there's more profit. Sorry, there's less profit in, again, let's take hotel. Okay, let's the big money, right? The big money is in private investment, and you look at the government now. We're looking at private investment to help our infrastructure. So the big money is in private investment, pension funds, these international pension funds and what have you, or private equity funds, and those fund a lot of the hospitality, which give us the properties to hold these wonderful experiences and conferences and things in. They still feel that that market is a very, very investable market. They still feel that the hospitality world, i.e., hotel world, is a good investment compared to, for example, office space or residential, or anything like that. So you look at Blackstone. Blackstone are piling into. I mean, data centers apart, but so those big macro companies, they're piling into hotels, and the staycation we talk about as well, that whole sector. So yes, they are going to have an impact. The budget will have an impact probably on national insurance contributions and your overheads when it comes to salaries, but there's still enough in the sector for it to be heavily investable in. Although, again, the caveat is depends on the type of business. If you've got a very marginal business that's squeezed on debt because you borrowed too much post, then yes, of course, you're going to be in a bit of a pickle, and it's going to affect you, and it's not going to be very pleasant. But if you're well capitalized and you've refinanced and you're in a robust position, you should be able to weather those storms. But what we don't want is for those hospitality experiences, those away days that you talked about, to have a rubbish experience because the staffing is not there,
Yes.
or they're not
Yeah.
paying the quality of training, for example. They're not investing in that. Nobody wants that, because that's what happened post-pandemic. And when we did a piece of work with BVA BDRC, who, for anybody who doesn't know who they are, they're a sentiment tracker. it was shocking. All this money that was being spent on these experiences and coming together and meetings and events, and the service and the delivery was awful. So the sort of net promoter score things were dropping, and it was a real issue. They're back now, thank goodness, because the industry's back. But yeah, we don't want businesses to stop investing in staff to give the attendees a bad experience. That would be a bit rubbish.
That would be. And with that, Peter, I'm afraid we're out of time. That half hour went very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But thank you, everyone, for listening. If you have got any questions or would like to speak to Peter directly and you're not already working with him, then just get back to me and I can put you directly in touch with him. I always need to say that our opinions today are just our opinions. And if you need any formal advice, then please do approach your professional advisors or come to me. And if you haven't already registered for Hospice on the 14th of November, please do. Both Peter and I will be there. He's actually going to be presenting. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you'll find a recording of all our webinars on the website on hospa.org. And this one will be up within the next few days. But thank you, Peter, very much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And hopefully see you all on the 14th of November. Thank you, Peter. Thanks,
You're welcome.
everyone.
Thanks, Jen. Cheerio. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.